YouTube, how's it going? The Goat House is back, and it's draft week. And today I have my updated 3-round NFL mock draft with trades, plenty of trades as requested. And want everyone to know that we will be live April 25th right here on YouTube during the draft, a little before and during the draft, right here on YouTube. Hopefully you can join us, predicting each pick, reacting to the picks, the trades, and I'll give my analysis. At the end of the day, I'll have my 3 single best picks, and then we'll have our post-draft videos with all the winners, and we'll have day 2 mock drafts, all kinds of fun stuff. We got you covered here at the Goat House for the NFL drafts. But yeah, this video, we got a lot of trades here. Was working real hard on this one. That's definitely the mock draft that took the longest to make, for sure. So a lot of trades here. I have exact trade details, so hopefully everyone paid attention here and doesn't skip through it, because then you're going to miss something. But, yeah, a lot of smoke going around, not buying a lot of it. But I think just one trade really just shakes up everything. And we got multiple trades here. So, let's show the first 8 picks. We'll get to the trade details once we're at that pick. So, I got Kyler Murray going first to the Cardinals. I'm still a believer. I know there's reports saying they're not doing it. And I didn't think, at this time last year, I didn't think the Browns were taking Baker Mayfield. I just didn't think they were going to do it. I thought he was worthy of the pick. Didn't think they would do it, so I guess, it's hard to predict the draft, and that's what makes it so great. So I still think it's Kyler Murray. They were trying to – it seems like they brought him in to visit with his agent. They were trying to work things out, making sure he didn't leave to go play baseball. I think that was part of the contract. I already think they were in discussions about that, but, maybe that's just me. Could be wrong, but – and he just fits Kingsbury's offense so perfectly. I don't know if I would make this pick. I do like Quinnen Williams a lot, but – I'm predicting the pick here, and this is what I think is going to happen, and we'll see. I'm almost hoping it's not the pick, because it's going to be madness. It's going to be crazy, and I love the draft. I love the draft no matter what, but the more craziness, the better it is for me. But the Niners go Nick Bosa. This is really the only pick that I'm 100% confident on. It'd be pretty funny if they went Quinnen Williams or Josh Allen, but I think they'll go Nick Bosa. The Niners will take who is number 1 on their board, and I'm predicting it's Nick Bosa. He plays opposite of D Ford. So we have our first trade here. The Giants trade up just a little bit, 3 spots, to take Dwayne Haskins, quarterback, Ohio State. Now, some Giants fans might not like this. If you're one of the Giants fans that don't really want a quarterback, I wouldn't do this. I wouldn't really do this, but if they fall in love with a quarterback, they're gonna make sure they get him, and you have to jump the Raiders and the Bucks. Not really the Bucks, but the Raiders you have to jump to play it safe. But also, we already know the Jets want to move back, so other teams can come up and possibly hop the Giants. I'm going back to before smoke season. The Giants were very interested in Dwayne Haskins, and I think that's what they're going to do. I think they have interest in Daniel Jones too, and they very well can do that. There's all kinds of connections there. With Eli Manning, Peyton Manning, Cutcliffe, they all had the same quarterback coach. So some connections, but at the end of the day, Eli Manning, whatever he says about Daniel Jones, whatever they think or whoever he trained with, they're going to decide who the number 1 quarterback is. I'm a believer it's Haskins, but it's up in the air, and they got to make sure they get him. And it's known that the Jets want to trade back. So let's take a look at the trade details. What would it be here? So the Jets only move back 3 spots, and they gain a 2nd and a 4th. So it seems like a lot for 3 spots, but that's what it is. The 3rd overall pick is very valuable, and the Jets know the Giants pretty much need to go up and get their quarterback. They got to know it's for a quarterback if they trade up. I don't think they'll trade up for a pass rusher or anything else, offensive lineman. I would like for them to stay put and take an offensive lineman, but in this scenario, predicting the pick, this is what happens. So the Jets, it's going to be hard to pass on, maybe the top player in the draft, Quinnen Williams, but mainly a big need in Josh Allen from Kentucky. But, they don't have a 2nd-round pick. They want more picks because they still have some needs. They want to be able to compete this year, so they have some more needs. And there's just also a belief to me that they want to do something specific, and we'll get to it when we get to their pick. The Raiders take Josh Allen. Tough call between Josh Allen and Quinnen Williams. Quinnen Williams, my number 1 player. Josh Allen's number 2, very tight with Nick Bosa. The Raiders, they've pretty much filled needs everywhere besides pass rush, corner, and maybe running back and tight end, which they can easily do in this draft. So they left the open hole at pass rush. They left it open for a reason, really. They didn't go sign Ziggy Ansah or anybody like that because they know what they can do with 3 first-round picks. After the first round, it starts to get a little weaker, obviously, like it should, but, there's a pretty big gap. So I think they pretty much have no choice. I mean, they could go Quinnen Williams, but I think they're going to want Josh Allen here. There's a lot of rumors that they'll take a quarterback. I'm still not seeing it, but it'd be great if they did, just because it would cause madness. I like that a lot. And that's what makes the draft so special. So Josh Allen there. The Buccaneers take Quinnen Williams. Devin White, it has to be a target for them, but you can't really sit here and pass on Quinnen Williams. He's here at pick 5, number 1 player in the draft. Interior pressures dominant. Him with Vita Vea. They're still trying to move on from Gerald McCoy, but even if they keep him, Quinnen Williams can move around to different spots in the D-line. I just think too good to pass. I think there's a possibility a team can trade up if Quinnen Williams is still here. And with the Bucs, but I don't know if the Bucs really want to move back with Quinnen Williams and Devin White and the 2 linemen that are about to come off the board still here. But maybe they can move back a few spots so they can still get one of those guys. And now we're here with the trade that we already went over. We saw what the Jets got, and we'll get, obviously, there's a 3-round mock, so the Jets will acquire some of those picks, or one of that 2nd-round pick when we get there. But I haven't taken Jonah Williams, and you don't see this a lot, well, mainly because people have him picking at 3. Jonah Williams, the offensive lineman at Alabama, pre-smoke, all the smoke, before it, Jonah Williams was easily a top 10 player. It kind of went away from that. I think, similar with Haskins, I think we're going to kind of go back to that and be like, oh, yeah, that's right. He was a top 10 player. Why did we go away from that? And I like him for the Jets. I know they like him, multiple visits with them. I think their number 1 priority is keeping Darnold protected. The offensive line, they didn't pick up. They tried to get more talent and through free agency and offensive line, couldn't quite do it. They really could use any position on the offensive line. They're not going to be terrible if they started today with that offensive line they already have. But you can get better with a young team and a young quarterback. You can't, mess up his potential and his chance for an improvement. Jonah Williams can easily play tackle, guard, and there's some teams that believe he can play center. Could be the Jets. They could use center. But any of those positions they can use, Jonah Williams is the one that can move around a bunch, and the Jets have shown big interest. So I think they will like to trade back to gather more picks, and because they know they can trade back and still take Jonah Williams, who I think they have interest in. It is going to be hard to pass on Josh Allen or Quinnen Williams, or there's rumors about Ed Oliver too. But I think if there's a trade here, which they would like to do, this is more like it. So that's my take on the Jets. Pick 7, the Jags take Jawan Taylor. They need another tackle, right tackle to be exact. And Jawan Taylor is available. Dominant right tackle, plug-and-play guy. Nick Foles won a Super Bowl with the Eagles when the Eagles probably had the best offensive line in football, and the Jags want to make it somewhat similar, as best as they can, for Nick Foles to lead them to the Super Bowl here, because even though they have the 7th pick, it's realistic they can get back there. They were just there 2 years ago with Blake Bortles, AFC Championship that is, with Blake Bortles. Now they have Nick Foles. Got to make sure he's protected. The Lions go Devin White, linebacker, LSU. Before making this mock, I didn't think I'd have Devin White here, but the reason he is here is because one trade so far. I have multiple trades in this video, don't worry, but so far there's been one trade, and it already slid not only Devin White, got like Ed Oliver back. So we see what one trade can do and to reach up for the quarterback, but I understand because the team has to make sure they got to get the quarterback. Quinnen Williams falls to 5, and we have Devin White sitting here at 8. The Lions could trade back, definitely could trade back. Possibly pick up. There's a multiple guys they can get if they trade back. I'm looking at a guy like Greedy Williams, maybe Cody Ford for offensive lineman, maybe a guy like Noah Fant, tight end. There's multiple things they can do, but they're sitting in a spot where I think it's just too good to pass on a guy like Devin White or Ed Oliver. So that's where the Lions going with. We're on to the next page. Some more trades coming up. 2 trades. 4 of these teams here. So I have the Redskins trading up for Drew Lock. They trade up to 9 and take Drew Lock, the quarterback from Missouri here. And it's a trend. It happens all the time. Quarterbacks, the pick they are selected in, 90% chance that pick was traded for, the past shown. So as we've seen, 2 out of the 3 quarterbacks taken, the pick was traded for. The Redskins, to me, Drew Lock is a Jay Gruden guy. I think he fits their offense perfectly. They can start Case Keenum this year, but he's not part of the future. Or they can start Drew Lock this year. It's their call, but I think Drew Lock's the future. And I like Drew Lock. I like him here at pick 9. So they trade up there. And obviously they trade with the Bills, who had the 9th pick. So let's take a look at the trade details here. The Bills they swap first rounders. 15th overall, the Bills move back, and the Redskins go with the ninth, get the ninth overall pick, and then they will swap picks from second to fourth. So a big swap there. You don't have to, if you look at the trade value chart, I kind of went off that. I kind of also put in my sense, like what's right and how's today going to look. So a mixture of both. But the difference between ninth and 15 in terms of value, not as big as you would think. But then the Bills do get a second round pick out of it, an extra one. Do give back a fourth, but that's a 2-round difference there. So, yeah, the Redskins, we'll get to the Bills pick in a little bit here. The Redskins come up and get their quarterback. I think the roster for the Redskins is pretty solid. They definitely need receivers, could use some defense here and there, but it's a pretty solid roster. Need the quarterback of the future, and the offensive line needs to stay healthy. So back-to-back picks where we have trades, and they're not in the same trade, obviously. I have the Falcons moving up to Ed Oliver, moving up to get Ed Oliver here, defensive lineman in Houston. There's a lot of talk about him going top 5, even top 3, and I can see it, but I have one trade really shaking things up. I think some teams will be high on Ed Oliver, and some teams just really won't be as high because he was kind of playing the wrong position. If you put him in the right position, he's expected to be very good. He has the traits, but some teams may be unsure. Maybe they don't think he'll be a safe pick. So the Falcons are definitely a team to look out for trading up. I think if Quinnen Williams starts to fall, I think they can trade up for him. And they're not afraid to go up and get the big-time player. I know they had a rough season last year, but they weren't healthy. If they're healthy, they're really a one big-time player away from getting back to the Super Bowl, really. So, like I said, the Bucs could trade that pick if Quinnen Williams is on the board. I don't see the Bucs and the Falcons trading. But if Ed Oliver starts to fall back, the Falcons definitely can move up ahead of the Bengals, Packers, Dolphins, to all teams that would be interested in taking Ed Oliver. So the Falcons could afford to do this as well. So the 10th pick there, which was the Broncos, the Falcons trade up. So let's take a look at the trade details. The Broncos and Falcons swap 10 for 14, 4 spots, and the Broncos also receive a third-round pick there from the Falcons. So pretty good deal for both teams. The Falcons go up and get their guy. They don't have a bunch of needs. The Broncos only move back 4 spots and grab an extra third-round pick there. So back to the picks. Ed Oliver to the Falcons. The Bengals take Devin Bush, linebacker from Michigan. They need a linebacker. I think Devin Bush is worthy of this pick, not far off from Devin White. Not one. I think if this was the scenario and these are the players on the board, I think that's what they would do. They would consider Hawkinson, consider Rashawn Gary, but that's about it. Maybe an offensive lineman, but I really think Devin Bush. Packers go T.J. Hawkinson. Packers are a tough one. 2 picks. They could definitely trade. I didn't have them trading. I think they could stay put too. I think Hawkinson would fit in their offense perfectly. Can do multiple things. Jimmy Graham can block. I feel like he just doesn't want to at times. There's a lot of didn't really try a lot of the time and didn't have the best season. So Hawkinson, I think, would work well in that offense and really upgrade the blocking at the same time, but he can do it all. So that's where I have the Packers going with. I think they would really like Jonah Williams, but he's off the board easily here. I think they would take Ed Oliver, maybe even Devin Bush too. They're off the board, so this could be a trade back spot. The Dolphins take Rashawn Gary, defensive end, Michigan. Could go multiple different D linemen. Between pass rush D linemen for their 4-3 or defensive tackles. I think they'll like Rashawn Gary. I think it's a Brian Flores guy. A lot of upside for him. Took on some double teams, did have some injuries, reason for not a whole bunch of production, but he's got a ton of upside here, and I like him with the fit here with the Dolphins. So then we had the Broncos trading back. The Redskins jumped the Broncos, took Drew Lock. Could the Broncos be interested in Drew Lock? Definitely. I think they could be, and him off the board. I think they could be looking to trade back, but I also think they would be very, very interested in this guy, and they know they can trade back possibly. The Dolphins could be a little scary. They could take him. But the Broncos, Dexter Lawrence, to me, is their type of guy. I think it's what they're looking for. They're pretty solid on their D-line. If the season started today, they're pretty solid, but they don't have a whole bunch of depth, and they definitely can use a guy that can not only play nose, but play end in their defense. Also seems to be a Vic Fangio type of guy. I see Akeem Hicks and Dexter Lawrence, that style of impact. Dexter Lawrence is really, really growing on me, and I think he goes higher than everybody thinks. I think this is his range. Teams are going to love him. Even I had him late in the first round in other older mocks, and I really think he goes up here somewhere. Elite run stopper and has potential to get after the quarterback. Freshman year, 7 sacks, and had some pressure these couple years. I think a guy, especially like Vic Fangio, can bring that out, and he has a chance to be an elite prospect here. So the Broncos would definitely like this guy. Maybe not the biggest need, but this is a guy they will like. The Bills traded back from 9. We already went over the details, to 15. I think Montez Sweat is definitely a guy they're interested in. There's reports that he can drop a little bit because of the heart condition, and then I think he will a little bit because a mixture because of that and the other trades like up for quarterbacks and the other defensive talent pushing him down. So I think it's a mixture. I am not super worried about the heart condition, and I don't think he's going to drop out of the first round or anything because they let him work out at the combine. Like, he was able to work out the combine when they already knew about it. They knew about it at Mississippi State. It's very slight. We looked at Maurice Hurst last year. They sent him home. He was not allowed to work out the combine. Totally different situation. Montez Sweat, freak athlete, a lot of upside from his already good production. The Bills will like this guy for their 4-3. I think he fits 4-3 end perfectly. They will like this guy. They will know they will be able to trade back and still get him. I love this for the Bills. And they pick at 9. I think they're going to get a ton of calls there. The Bills is the first prime spot. We already had a trade on the first page, obviously, but I think it's that prime spot where teams like the Redskins, the Falcons, even the Bengals, possibly the Packers, the Dolphins, teams like that all will try to call. Pretty much all the teams right after them will try to call the Bills to get up there, mainly to jump. Mainly it's for quarterback, looking at the Broncos and the Bengals and the Dolphins. They want to jump those teams. Those teams want to battle each other to possibly jump each other. Also, the Falcons, like we had, moving up to 10. I think they have a chance to move up well inside the top 10 or to 9 as well to get their defensive linemen, because that's what they're just that away from being a contender again. So the Bills sit in a prime spot. They move back and if we want to see the trade details again, we'll pop them up real quick. They grab an extra second rounder and get Montez Sweat here at the 15th pick. I think it's excellent. Panthers take Andre Dillard, offensive lineman, Washington State. Could go pass rush here. Hard to pass on Brian Burns, but I think their top priority will be to protect Cam Newton when he's ready to go, and they can't have him keep getting injured, because that's going to be a big problem for long term. Then they're going to need a quarterback then. So they don't want that. They know they have an MVP caliber quarterback, and a quarterback capable of bringing them to the Super Bowl. They need to keep him protected. Andre Dillard, I think, will be the pick there. And we're on to the next page. More trades coming. So I have the Giants taking Brian Burns. The problem with this, mock, which obviously is pretty to pick, I think can happen here. They don't grab an offensive line, which I think they need a right tackle. But Gettleman, in the Panthers, he came from Carolina. They didn't really value offensive line that much. They valued more of this style, defense and having the quarterback. And then Brian Burns is also too good to pass. So this is definitely something I see the Giants doing. And again, I do think they'll have interest in Daniel Jones, but I'm predicting them to have a little more in Dwayne Haskins. So keep an eye out. I do like Cody Ford for them. Keep an eye out on Daniel Jones too. So that's where the Giants go. They get Dwayne Haskins and Brian Burns. So the Giants did give up a little bit, for trading up 3 spots, but they held on to their 17th overall pick, and they still have a lot of picks. So I think a good deal there, for them. And then the Eagles trade up to 18 with the Minnesota Vikings, take Garrett Bradbury, center/guard from NC State. And it's interesting because I have them trading with a team that may very well draft Garrett Bradbury with this pick in the Vikings. And so a little bit of a bold prediction here. But the Eagles, to me, Garrett Bradbury is a guy the Eagles need and must have. That's me. Maybe I think they'll like other offensive linemen, maybe like Cody Ford too. I think they'll like Andre Dillard. That seems like an Eagles future left tackle, but he's off the board. But Jason Kelce, hurt 3 different injuries he played through last year. Beast, but also just, was thinking about retiring, and he decided to come back. So he cannot, he doesn't have long. He doesn't have long left, unfortunately. And he's their center, but he'll start this year. They need a left guard right now. Garrett Bradbury, known for playing both. He can play both at a high level. He'll play left guard right away, and he'll move back to center when Kelsey's done. And you don't see a center this good every draft. Average drafts the last how many years, the center isn't really taken till late day 2 or early day 3, like starting center. And there's some good ones in the league that you can find, later, but you just don't see a guy like this, a sure thing, which the Eagles always think it's key to make sure their offensive line's good. That's why they won a Super Bowl. Not the only reason why. Last year, they weren't as good, and Wentz got hurt because, the offensive line wasn't at its best because it wasn't healthy. So Bradbury, to me, is a Eagles. It's a must-have for the Eagles. They're going to have to trade up to get him. I'm feeling pretty good about that one, honestly. But let's take a look at the trade details. The Vikings, they do like to gather more picks. Their goal is always to have 10 draft picks. So they're going to try to do that here. And I know they need an offensive lineman. They could very well take Garrett Bradbury. But I think there's multiple offensive linemen they're okay with moving back, and they know they can get. So something interesting happens with them once we get to their pick later. Just something interesting happened with me going through this draft. But they swap 18 for 25. They also swap second, third. So the Vikings get the Eagles second, but the Eagles get the third back. But then still a little more value going to the Eagles there. So the Vikings, their goal is to get more picks. So even if it's later, they get a fifth and sixth there. So basically 2 swaps up top and then a fifth and a sixth added to Minnesota. So that is the deal. And back to the mock. Garrett Bradbury to the Eagles. Titans go Christian Wilkins, D tackle from Clemson. He's fallen down to 19. I don't think they pass on him. Strongly consider Marquise Brown, receiver from Oklahoma, and the Titans will consider him. But Christian Wilkins, I don't think they'll be able to pass on to add another D lineman, much better than 19th overall player. Steelers go Greedy Williams. I think a no-brainer at this point. They need a corner. They also need a linebacker, but the best available there would be Greedy Williams. A lot of potential in him. Steelers definitely can use that. Another trade. The Patriots come up to 21 from flipping with the Seahawks here and get their tight end Noah Fant from Iowa. They know how important having a tight end is. They were, even when Gronk was out, they were just different. How dominant he was when he was in. Let's get a dominant tight end that really can do everything, and that's Noah Fant here. So they come up to 21. I think something they would strongly be interested in. It'll be interesting, though, because they could come up here and grab a guy like Marquise Brown or DK Metcalf or any of the other receivers. That also could be an option. The Seahawks, pretty obvious they would like to trade back. They have the least amount of picks in this draft. So let's take a look at the details. They're going to swap 21 for 32. The Seahawks are also going to get one of their second-round picks, the later one. So they gain that. And then, so only swapping from 21 to 32. Not a huge movement. And then they gain a second rounder, so that's big time, but they kind of owe them a little bit back. So they swap 6th and 5th, so the Patriots do move up from the 6th to the 5th. But the Seahawks add another pick, and it happens to be in the second round by doing that. They would love to do that. Keep an eye out for them. Trading Frank Clark, that's heating up more. I did not have that happening, but we're going to have a video only with trade scenarios, so more types of trades. You'll see screens like I have up now. Different ones with all different teams. I don't expect all of them to happen, but things that are possibilities. So that'll be coming before the draft too. So the Seahawks gain a pick here. Much needed pick, I should say. And back to this, the Patriots get Noah Fant, and that's definitely what they need. Something like that. And they gain, like I said, an extra second rounder last year. I believe it was with the Bears. So they hang on to a second rounder there. The Ravens cannot pass on Marquise Brown here. He fits with Lamar Jackson. I think he'll be their number 1 receiver. It sounds like he'll be the number 1 receiver off the board. But definitely could be DK Metcalf. So the Ravens get a much-needed guy there to help that offense. I would love that pick, even though he's not my number 1 receiver. It makes a lot of sense. So maybe a little surprise here. I have the Texans going DK Metcalf, wide receiver, Ole Miss. Before making this mock, as it was going, I still believe DK Metcalf, with his size and freakish athleticism, somebody will fall in love with him. And I think there will be teams that we already had draft that will love him. They just love somebody else more and see more value in a safer pick in somebody else. And I figured I would have DK Metcalf going way higher, but the trades pushed the receivers down. The trades happen to push good players down, but, I've noticed for me here in this scenario, as I went through this, receivers, safeties, and running backs got pushed down because of the trades. So why not offensive line? Why not cornerback? DK Metcalf is the best available out of all that, and they do need a receiver. They need one. And they've done their homework. They've done plenty of visiting with receivers, big-time receivers, and they traded for Demaryius Thomas, a guy that's, not in his prime anymore. He's only had 1 year left on his contract. They traded a decent pick for him because they needed him. And Will Fuller is good. He keeps getting hurt, but even with Will Fuller, they still need an outside receiver. And just imagining DK Metcalf opposite DeAndre Hopkins, oh my God. That's really all I have to say. Just it opens things up for DeAndre Hopkins more, and DK Metcalf could potentially be going off because people are focused on DeAndre Hopkins. So this makes sense to me if he's here. I really like this pick if he's there, and I think it's definitely something they'll be interested in. The Raiders take Cleveland Farrell, so they get another pass rusher here. So they have Cleveland Farrell opposite of Josh Allen. They also have Arden Key in the rotation as well. So definitely they upgrade pass rush just like that. Clelin Ferrell is much better than the 24th overall player, so it's a must-do here for the Raiders. Next picks. Some more surprises coming up. So the Vikings traded back. We already went over that. They want to gain more picks, and they know multiple offensive linemen they would like back here at 25. So I said something interesting would happen here. And in my head, when I had the Vikings trade, I have a feeling they'll like Chris Lindstrom a lot. Chris Lindstrom from Boston College will fit them. He's getting a lot of first-round talk now. I did not expect to have Cody Ford still on the board. But I guess DK Metcalf being too good to pass with the Texans forced that. So Cody Ford obviously should be higher than guy like Chris Lindstrom or Dalton Risner on the board. Possibly not. But they'll take him. They'll be happy to move back and take a guy like that. Again, the Vikings are a team that, they want to gather as many picks as they can every year, and they're really not up to how many picks they want to have. But they also believe they're a line away from winning the Super Bowl. So that could mean maybe they trade up for a guy like Jonah Williams, but they're not going to want to go up too far and give up too much. The Colts, I'm sticking with N'Keal Harry here, receiver, Arizona State. I think teams are bound to have him as their number one receiver. And the Colts, really, I think they need a guy like this. I think he fits their offense. I think this will make their offense that much better. And to me, it's too good to pass here at 26, so I'm sticking to that. The Raiders take Byron Murphy, corner from Washington, at 27. They definitely need another corner. They got two pass rushes. They need a corner, a tight end, Noah Fant. They got hopped with the Patriots. The Patriots did have to move up pretty far. But they had to make sure they hop teams, like the Raiders up there that could take Noah Fant. So that's why they went up that far. Byron Murphy to the Raiders. They get their corner. Deciding between Byron Murphy and DeAndre Baker, what made me choose Byron Murphy? Mayock has a saying that he really likes about cornerbacks, oily hips, and Byron Murphy is the definition of oily hips out of the corners in the NFL draft. Very good technique, very smooth. So that's what the Raiders go there. The Chargers go Jeffrey Simmons, D-lineman, Mississippi State, getting a lot of talk that he is going first round, and late first round, top 5 player if healthy, and they think he can come back from the injury. The Chargers can't afford to do this because they may have the most complete team in all of football, and they're looking for a defensive tackle as well. And this, I think he fits their system, so they would love to have Jeffrey Simmons, if everything checks out long-term for him. The Chiefs go DeAndre Baker. They need a corner pretty badly. Could be a safety, maybe Taylor Rapp here, but they go DeAndre Baker, plug-and-play starting corner. It's something that they're missing for sure, so I think a no-brainer. Packers go Dalton Risner, offensive lineman, Kansas State. Packers are always good at making sure they have offensive line talent and depth. Some of their tackles are, getting up there in age, and they seem to be getting hurt. They could use a starting guard, too. Risner could start at guard and possibly move up the tackle. That's why he's a very good pick here. So they really upgrade. And they're protecting Rodgers. He was getting beat up last year because the offensive line wasn't really the same as it used to be, which used to be one of the best in football, maybe the best. So they're going to make sure here. They really upgrade the blocking with Hawkinson and Risner. And here we go. A little surprise. I got the Broncos trading up for Daniel Jones, quarterback of Duke. And the Broncos already traded back. So I had the Broncos trading twice already. They trade back and they trade up from the second round with the Rams, and they grab Daniel Jones. Two teams I think will be the highest on Daniel Jones, the Giants and the Broncos. Also would throw the Redskins in there for a possibility, wild card, maybe the Dolphins. So Daniel Jones to the Broncos. I think they'll be interested. Like we talked about, the Giants have connections with him, and the Broncos somewhat do too. Peyton Manning coming from the Broncos, and him and Daniel Jones worked out together. They had, Peyton Manning's almost like a mentor to him, and they had the same quarterback coach. And, that's the type of quarterback that John Elway and the Broncos like. So Daniel Jones coming in there, learn from Joe Flacco. Definitely, I think that I have a feeling the Giants or the Broncos will end up with Daniel Jones. That's what I have having here. The Rams could use some more picks, and they could, they have the ability to move back here and stay safe and still get a guy they definitely could use. Let's take a look at the trade details. So this one gets a little confusing. There's a little swapping here. So they swap 10 picks, basically. Even though it's a first and second round swap, it's only 10 picks. The Broncos come up to 31. The Rams go back to 41, which is the first round. Then the Rams will receive, well, there's actually a swap here, but the Rams will receive Atlanta's third round pick, which I had the Broncos getting when trading back early in the first round. That's 79th overall, but the value kind of gets a little off here at some point. The Broncos need the third round back at 99. So basically, the Rams move back 9 spots to move up 20 spots, which is quite a bit down there in a third round, but they did come out of the first round, so they're still owed something. A 5th and a 7th is what I had going back to the Rams. So the Rams definitely want more picks. They're capable of getting to the Super Bowl again with their current roster. They need to make sure they have, definitely some starters, which they can get in the second round and in the third round, but they definitely want to make sure they have the depth, too, in case of injuries. So the Broncos come up, get their quarterback. I think they'll be able to make a deal here with the Rams. So they get Daniel Jones, quarterback Duke. So they had 2 first-rounders, and they get Dexter Lawrence and Daniel Jones. The Seahawks, multiple different scenarios you can go here when trading back. You can go D-line. There's still some good D-linemen. There's some corners left where the top 3 are off the board. I think you get a solid one in the second, third round. You can go multiple things. They could use an edge rusher. I think the better ones are off the board. But A.J. Brown stood out to me. People were saying the receivers will drop, and I did have them drop because of the trade, but I just don't see a lot of these guys getting out of the first round. They're too talented. We still don't know what's going on with Doug Baldwin. I think he'll play, but he had the injury, and how much longer is he going to last? Russell Wilson, you gave that big contract to. You need to get him more weapons. And who could be a good Baldwin replacement going forward, and who can also play alongside him and Lockett? A.J. Brown. Can play in the slot, can play outside, runs routes real good. He will work well, very well, with Russell Wilson. So I just view him as a Seahawks receiver and a guy they can definitely use, and they trade back, get picks while doing it. So we're moving on to the second and third round here. So the Cardinals in the top of the first round, I've taken Paris Campbell, who could sneak in the first round, receiver from Ohio State. Very athletic guy, can do multiple things in him. I think he'll fit very well with Kyler Murray. And definitely a guy they'll like to have in there. They have some solid receivers, but definitely can use another one. Colts go Jerry Tillery, who's mostly viewed as a first-round guy, the D-line from Notre Dame, and he slides out because of those trades. So we're starting to see that some real serious talent could be left in the second and third round because of the trades. Jerry Tillery, Colts cannot pass on him there. The Raiders go Josh Jacobs. Like I said, I think the running backs fall because of all this. And, going in with that, I think because they're running backs. You can find a solid run. The teams don't value the position that much anymore, and you can find solid ones later, but Josh Jacobs is the clear one. The Raiders take him. The Niners could go receiver and could go a number of safeties. To me, Taylor Rapp's the best safety, and there's a lot of talk that some of the other guys could go in the first round. I can see it, but I don't know if I don't know if it really happens because some of those other safeties are more box or slot players. They're not real safeties. To me, Taylor Rapp is a real safety. He's played free safety. He's played center field deep by himself. He's also come up in the box. He does everything. He's very instinctive. The Niners can definitely use a guy like that. I thought they would end up with a guy like Earl Thomas, but Taylor Rapp would be a good replacement there, a good option B there, and obviously much better for the future, long term. The Jets acquired this pick from the Giants in that trade, and they get the much-needed edge here from Ja'Kai Polite, who I have a late first-round grade on. Elite traits as a pass rusher, could work on the run game a little bit, but has the potential, and some people didn't like him in the meetings, but not too worried. The Jets would get a great pick here, so they get offense line and edge rush just like that. The Jags go Akeem Butler, receiver, Iowa State. They need a receiver outside. They've been lacking, a physical and, pretty good size receivers, and, Allen Robinson had some of that. So they would definitely like to go Akeem Butler. Some teams could have a first-round grade on him, but I think he drops a little bit. You don't see a receiver like this every day, so the Jags would be happy to have him. The Buccaneers go Titus Howard, offensive lineman at Alabama State. Some talk about him going late first. Could happen, but I think it's more likely he's around here. The Buccaneers definitely need another offensive lineman. I think he has potential to start at right tackle right away. The Bills go Chris Lindstrom, who I mentioned definitely could be a first-round pick. I keep an eye out for the Vikings for him in the first round. He can even go up at 18 if the Vikings keep that pick. But instant starting guard, the Bills can definitely use a guy like that, and they gain an extra pick too. So we'll get there in a little bit. And here is the Rams trade. So they traded back, and they still got a guy that I think has the potential to go to the Rams in the first round if they kept their pick. I think they'll be interested in Caleb McGarry, offensive lineman from Washington. He can play tackle or guard, and they'll use him at guard right away, could potentially slide out. So he has some first-round potential as well, but I think this is more like it. So they trade back, end up moving up a lot in the third round and gain 2 extra picks and still get a guy that they would definitely like. I'd be surprised the Rams didn't go offensive line early here. The Bengals also go offensive line. Yanni Kajus, offensive line, West Virginia. Would go much higher, but had the injury at the end of the year, but he'll be good to go most likely. The Bengals definitely could use another offensive lineman. The offensive line really wasn't where they expected to be last year. The Lions go Irv Smith Jr., tight end from Alabama. Some talk about him going late first, too. Too good to pass, possibly for the Lions here, get the tight end of the future. Packers go Charles Omenihu, defensive lineman, Texas. I think he fits as a 3-4 end. I would love him at 3-4 end. Really, that's where he played, but can play a 4-3 D tackle. He gets it after the quarterback, can also stop the run. The Packers need another D end out there next to Daniels and Kenny Clark, and this would be a dominant D lineman. Seen him in the Oklahoma game getting after Kyler Murray. Very impressive player there. The Falcons go Rock Ya-Sin, corner Temple. The Falcons have solid starting corners, just really no depth, and they could get better at starting corners still. Rock Ya-Sin is a corner they could like there, physical corner. Physical press corner at the line, and the Bills go with the pick they traded for. We already went over the details. They trade with the Redskins. They acquire the Redskins pick. They grab Deebo Samuel, wide receiver, South Carolina guy that can play outside or the slot. They have quite a few receivers, but they definitely get better here with Deebo Samuel and gain an extra pick to take him. That is fantastic. The Panthers go Jalen Ferguson, edge rusher, LA Tech. So they need a pass rusher, and definitely the best available here, Jalen Ferguson. Even if they do switch to 3-4, I like him at outside linebacker. If they stay at 4-3, I like him at defensive end. Either one. And I have a trade here, a new trade. The Cardinals trade to the 48th pick, which was originally held by the Miami Dolphins. They take Greg Little, offensive lineman, Ole Miss. Trade details. Yes, it's Josh Rosen. Josh Rosen goes to the Dolphins. The Cardinals get a second and a fifth. Hard to tell what he'll go for. He could honestly go for a first because he's better than a guy like Daniel Jones. You can argue better than Drew Lock and Dwayne Haskins too. But some teams are a little worried because how he performed this year. I'm not super worried about that. And there was rumors that it could be a third rounder, but I think that's too low. So we kind of split the difference here, a second and a fifth. The Dolphins get their quarterback, and they still hang on to their first rounder. So they get Rashawn Gary and Josh Rosen. They hang on to that first round. That is key right there. So then the Cardinals do take Greg Little. They need offensive line help. Greg Little, some talk about him going late first. I think it's second is more like it. Known as a tackle, but can slide into guard possibly if they need him to. So they already got 3 picks so far. One, Kyler Murray. One to help Kyler Murray, a weapon to help Kyler Murray, and Akeem Butler in Paris Campbell. And then somebody to protect Kyler Murray. So trade that I think is very realistic. You don't really see player trades, guys like Josh Rosen. There's one that I think definitely can happen. Going to be interesting to see. I mean, if Kyler Murray doesn't go 1, that changes completely everything. So it could be wild. And like I said, Frank Clark's another player that could be traded. But, you don't really see stuff like that every day. So we'll see what happens there. On to the next picks. The Browns go Juan Thornhill. Could be Jonathan Abram. Could be a corner as well. I like Juan Thornhill for them. Good Jabril Peppers replacement and has more upside in my opinion. He could sneak late first, but I think the safeties drop here. Maybe just my opinion. Maybe the Vikings go Eric McCoy, offensive lineman, Texas A&M. So they do grab 2 offensive linemen right off the top here. Thought about L.J. Collier for them, but they grab McCoy. They had Cody Ford who can play tackle or guard. Eric McCoy could play center or guard. So, I would think the future would look like Brian O'Neill at left tackle, Cody Ford at right tackle, and then Eric McCoy and Pat Elflein both starting. I don't know what their situation is with Elflein, keeping him at center, moving to guard. Either or is good. I think McCoy is great at center or guard. So that could be a pretty good haul so far. The Titans go Chase Winovich, edge rusher, Michigan. To me, this could be a Vrabel guy. They grab Christian Wilkins. Now they go Winovich. They could go offensive line or receiver here, but I think they'll like Winovich there to that pass rush. They got solid pressure last year, just didn't get the sacks. That's where Winovich can come in, and Harold Landry in year 2. The Steelers go Mac Wilson, linebacker, Alabama. They got their corner in the first. They need a linebacker pretty bad. Mac Wilson falls to them in the second. The Eagles go Jonathan Abram, safety from Mississippi State. I think more of a box guy. I think that's why he falls a little bit. And the Eagles are kind of lacking that. They have he can play safety for them, but they use him in different ways to bring something different to their defense. Lost some linebackers. So, he's almost part of the linebacker / safety group. makes sense to me there. The Texans get 2 picks in a row. Joejuan Williams, corner from Vandy, to me is a guy they'll like. Lengthy corner with a lot of upside. To me, he fits their defense. And they need an offensive lineman. To me, I think they could use a guard more than a tackle. They have tackle depth. They have very young guys that struggled last year, but it's okay. They were young. Some other teams are struggling when they don't have young guys at the tackle position. And they brought in Matt Kalel, nothing special, but was former All-Pro, so has the potential with the new team here. Elgin Jenkins can play guard. If they need a center for the future, he also can move into that. Patriots go L.J. Collier. He can do multiple things. He can play end, or he can play a D tackle spot. That helps the Patriots in multiple ways there. I like him a lot. Better than the 56th overall pick. He has a ton of upside. Can get after quarterback and stop the run. He's right there with Charles Omenihu for me. Pretty similar player. And then the last picks of the second round before we get to the third, the Vikings got the Eagles' second round pick, but then gave the Eagles their third, also gained some late picks. They take Draymond Jones, D-lineman, Ohio State. The Vikings could use interior D-line or a defensive end. Draymond Jones, interesting one. It's a guy that you can move around a little bit, most likely interior D-line for them. I also thought about this next pick for the Vikings, Jay Sternberger. They're always looking for an athletic tight end, but I have them going Jones instead, somebody I think they'll like. Cowboys go Jay Sternberger, the tight end of the future. Also, obviously, right now, an athletic tight end for Dak is kind of what they're lacking. The Colts grab their corner and Julian Love from Notre Dame. Pass breakup machine, can play outside, can play in a slot, do multiple things for the Colts there. Bunch of safeties come off the board here. Like I said, I think they drop, but I think there's a run on them. The Chargers go into Nasir Adderley, playmaker. I think perfect with pairing with Derwin James, makes a lot of sense there. Nasir Adderley could go first. I think there's some teams that are kind of split on him. Is he going to be a safety? Could be a corner. Will he be better than some of these other corners? Probably not. I think he's a safety, but I think because teams are split, he could drop. Chiefs take Deontay Thompson, safety, Alabama. I still like Deontay Thompson, very rangy in the pass game. And the Chiefs could like him very much too, so they grab a corner and a safety. Saints go Chauncey Gardner-Johnson, safety, but I want to call him more of a slot player, a guy they can use in multiple different ways there for the Saints as a DB and a playmaker, which they want to continue to get those turnovers. Chauncey Gardner-Johnson can help that. Chiefs go O'Shane Ximenez, edge rusher from Old Dominion. I think the best pass rusher available that fits the Chiefs' new defense and a need here. The guy consistently forced fumbles and got sacks. That's a good sign here. And then the Seahawks got this pick from the Patriots, and it turns into Lonnie Johnson Jr., corner from Kentucky. He's actually getting some first-round talk. I don't know if I see it. I think more of a second. Does need to work on his tackling, but very good, very physical, very good in the pass game. This is a Seahawks corner to me. I think they'll like him here, and they definitely need to grab more picks, and that's what they did here. Now we're on to the third round. Some trades are still going into effect here, but not on this page. I have one whole page for the rest of the third round picks because they kind of go together with the trades. The Cardinals get their pass rusher and Christian Miller, who I think is a second round pick from Alabama. Steelers need another offensive lineman of the future, a guy that can play tackle or guard. Makes sense for them, and David Edwards. Niners need a receiver, Calvin Harmon. Maybe the best body control out of all the receivers in the draft. Could be a second rounder. The Jets go Trayvon Mullen. I couldn't believe I still had Trayvon Mullen on the board. That's what's going to happen. We're not going to be able to believe some of these guys are still on the board, and I'm predicting somebody, a defensive back like Trayvon Mullen. Could be somebody I had gone. Could be a Joejuan Williams. Could be a Julian Love. I had Trayvon Mullen here. The Jets would jump all over this pick. The Jags need a receiving tight end, to help Nick Foles out. Need a Ertz-type guy. Maybe not quite Ertz, but Dawson Knox here from Ole Miss is the pick. He also is very good at run blocking. I also had Darnell Savage dropping, who some people think could be a late first. Don't see it. I think a second round pick. The Bucs definitely need safety help. They grab him. The Broncos, even though they give up a third round pick, they gained one with the whole trade back scenario. So they still end up with two actually third round picks. So even though they traded them up, they gained some there. They take Jermaine Pratt, who I think is a good, one of my favorite, maybe my favorite player in the draft. A lot of upside for him. He should be an early second rounder, but I think they can get him in the third. Vic Fangio guy, can move him inside, outside linebacker, do multiple different things. The Bengals go Will Grier, West Virginia quarterback. To me, he's their style quarterback. Could be the quarterback of the future. Definitely doesn't battle Dalton really for the starting job, and Dalton gets the job. But a future quarterback here for the Bengals. J.J. Arcega-Whiteside of the Patriots at the top could potentially be a second-round pick. Patriots obviously not a receiver. And then at 74, the Bills take Kalen Saunders, who also can be a potential second-round pick from Western Illinois. Pretty good pass rusher for an interior guy and pretty athletic for his size. Packers go Terry McLaurin. I think a Packers type receiver, which they kind of need here, a guy that can get open, and it's a good pair with Devontae Adams. The Redskins need a receiver for the quarterback they traded up for and for Case Keenum if he starts. Riley really is that. Very good on the sideline, very good against press, and can block. Another receiver, Stanley Morgan Jr. to the Panthers. Morgan Jr. is one of my favorite players in the draft. I think a safe pick, knows how to get open. Panthers definitely need another one of those guys. The Dolphins go with Tristan Hill, interior D lineman from Central Florida. A guy that really wasn't used right at Central Florida. I think a lot of upside here, and I think Brian Flores will like him in their defense. The Rams go with Renner. This was a trade swap. They took the Falcons pick from the Broncos. Renner is a Rams type of D lineman to me. He can move around in different spots. I think he has a better NFL career than college. Not re-signing Dominican Sue yet, I guess. They definitely can use a guy like Wren. Sean Bunting to the Browns. They grab a safety and a corner. Sean Bunting, also one of my favorite players in the draft. Whole bunch of upside. The Eagles get this pick from the Vikings. They get Tavon Coney, inside linebacker for them. Can move around too, can play outside in their 4-3. Much needed linebacker. The Titans go Connor McGovern, guy that can play center for the future, but could play guard right now for them. Steelers lose Antonio Brown with a trade. They still have solid receivers, but they can definitely use another guy with speed, and that's McCole Hardman. I expect a better pro career than college from him too. Seahawks get their edge rusher in Joe Jackson. I think he fits the Seahawks and definitely need another guy. Even if they keep Frank Clark, I think they need another guy. Ben Benogu, edge rusher from TCU, goes to the Ravens, and I think a good speed rusher for the outside. Lost some guys in the offseason. They get one back here. The Texans go with another corner. Definitely can use multiple. Justin Lane, who's getting a lot of hype, could go second round. They grab him here. The Bears, to me, Darrell Henderson's the guy they need. Running back from Memphis. They got Tariq Cohen, who's used more as a receiver. They got Mike Davis, who I think is like the Jordan Howard replacement, but they don't want to use that style running back that much. They need an all-around type back, guy with some speed too, and that's Darrell Henderson to me, second best running back in the class for me. Michael Dieter to the Lions. They need an interior offensive lineman right now. They grab one here. The Colts go Amani Hooker, guy that can play safety next to Malik Hooker, actually, and can play in the box if they need him to. The Cowboys go Gerald Willis. I think this is a good fit. I think interior D lineman for the Cowboys here. Chargers need another tackle, Bobby Evans, with the 91st pick. Chiefs grab another corner, too good to pass. Amani Aruarie from Penn State, still on the board here, potential second-round pick. Jets get Andy Isabella, very good route runner from UMass. They grab him in the third. The Rams, part of that trade still, take Blake Cashman from Minnesota. They definitely can use another inside linebacker there, but they don't really value the position that much. So we'll see where they take one. I think it's about time, they get another good solid guy. I mean, they got rid of Mark Barron, so good replacement. The Giants go Miles Boykin, wide receiver from Notre Dame. He's getting a lot of hype too. I think third round makes some sense, but you watch out for him. Pretty good size, knows how to run routes, and very athletic after the combine. The Redskins go DeAndre Walker, edge rusher from Georgia. A lot of upside because they used him in multiple different ways. If they use him purely as a pass rusher, he can get some, good amount of production for the Redskins there. The Patriots go Jarrett Stidham. Always talked about they'll either go Stidham or Finley. I just believe that. Stidham, whole bunch of upside. I think he can be the future starter after Tom Brady's gone. The Jags go David Long, corner. From Michigan, I think a very good slot guy. I think that'll make that, that corner class, elite again there in Jacksonville. The Broncos gather this pick and part of a trade. They get a guard in Drew Samia from Oklahoma. Panthers need another safety. Will Harris has a ton of upside. I think he's a very balanced all-around safety. The Patriots, they'll make sure they have the right offensive line depth, even if it is drafting depth early. Nate Davis, a lot of upside out of Charlotte. And the Ravens grab another receiver that I think will fit their offense. I think they'll make it pretty dominant. Emmanuel Hall, the speedy, athletic receiver from Missouri there. So that tops off the third round, my 3-round mock. A lot of work in this one, a lot of trades, makes it crazy. So we'll see if any of these trades happen. It's very hard to predict trades once you start predicting more and more of them, or once you get one wrong, it kind of creates a mess. That's why I only do a couple of these a year. I know everyone requested it, so happy to do it. plenty more draft content to come before the draft, even though the draft's almost here. And then we'll be live during the NFL draft as well. So hopefully you guys join us for that. It's going to be a lot of fun. But that's going to do it. Subscriber goals at 20K. Please help us out. Twitter's at the bottom right, also in the description. We were always talking about the draft on there, keeping you guys updated with anything going on the channel. And we'll talk through part of the draft through that as well. Clicking the like button, subscribe button, much appreciated. Notification button, go ahead and turn that on. I may do another live stream before the live stream of the draft, so you're going to want to turn notifications on. That's going to do it for this one, though. Thanks, everyone, for watching. Goodbye.